Welcome to Education Today. I'm Chris Garatano, Armstrong School District's multimedia technician. Tonight we have a truly outstanding show for you. This year Education Today began its 10th season on air. That's right, we're midway through our 10th season. In honor of that, tonight we wanted to step back and take a look at the TV production program and the origins of Education Today. We have a blast from the past all-star lineup of guests to talk about the program, which includes almost all of the people who were originally involved in getting all of this off the ground. First tonight, we're going to talk to the former TV studio director and one of the former administrators from Armstrong School District that were crucial pieces to this puzzle. Guys, welcome to Education Today. Could you please introduce yourself for our viewers?
Hi, Chris. My name's Don Swanson, and I'm the old you and the current Ed Bauer.
Chris, Frank Garatano, and the former assistant superintendent with the district when the program started.
All right, let's go back in time about 10 years ago and start with how this program really got its start.
I would say as we looked into the curricular offerings at the secondary level, we want to continue to improve what we were doing. So we thought this would be a nice program at the school level, and thought, well, let's start at school level where we'd have each one of our high schools have a broadcasting course, and then how can we ultimately put that together so we have a studio. Knowing full well that we could only have one studio in a district, we had to try to locate space, and we were fortunate enough to find space here at Containing Middle School, and we were able to convert 2 classrooms into a studio. And one of the other aspects of this for the growth was the school board supported it greatly, and they were interested in having the school board meetings also taped so it could be viewed by the taxpayers in the district. So you put those 2 items together, great interest from the school district, from the board of school directors, as well as the teachers and the administrators at the building level wanting to make this program move forward, and we're able to do that.
For my part of it, pretty much what Dr. Garatano just said was more or less in place, I think, whenever I came here. I know my very first official day of work, I was brought here to the middle school, and I was shown 3 locations in the building. And I was asked, how would you turn each of those locations into a studio? Which was certainly a question I wasn't expecting on my very first day of work. But we looked at a spot downstairs where Miss Akins was there at the time. This place here, which was, I believe, 2 special ed classrooms, and then upstairs where at the time Mr. Turca was. And based on, you know, my recommendation and talking it out with administrators and everything, this location was chosen. And shortly after that, I met with the TV teachers across the district, which at the time was Ed Bauer at Katanning, Barb Keller at Ford City, Ren Still at West Shamokin, and at Elderton at the time, Bobby Hamill was in charge of the club. And we talked a good bit about what they were going to do in the classes, how we could relate that to what could potentially go into the studio. At the time, I believe only Ford City had previously had the program actually up and running.
That is correct.
Yeah, and we kind of modeled the classes a bit after Ford City, and then in terms of the studio space, I modeled that after IUP and Clarion.
Okay. What steps need to be taken to move forward with this program?
I guess first, from an administrative standpoint, we had to put a plan together. And with that plan, you had to look at the logistics, cost, where you locate it, do we have student interest? So we had to take care of all that up front, and having the teachers survey the students to find out if there was enough interest to offer the course. Once it was determined there was enough interest to offer the courses, then we looked at where do we find the equipment. And fortunately, for the studio, we were able to get equipment donated by two businessmen in the community. And that worked out very well. And I know one was Mr. Toy and the other was
Dr. Paul?
Dr. Paul.
Yeah, Dr.
Correct.
Paul.
Donated the equipment for the studio. Now, the equipment for the schools was budgeted, so each school would have somewhat similar equipment to what you have here in the studio, but not at the higher end.
Right.
Yeah, I believe the term used was satellite at the time. Yeah, like satellite studios at each school. And from my point when I came in, and the purse string was loosened, so to speak, to initially get everything set up. And I believe my directive even was to try to get everybody around where Ford City was, to take a look at Ford City, see what they might need, and then try to pull everybody else. Because Barb Keller at Ford City had been working a few years on a program like that. And we started off equipment-wise, basic screenplay editors and things like that. And since the district wasn't Mac-based, we went Adobe Premiere on a PC platform up here. And then, as you're perfectly well aware, from that point forward, 10 years later, which you're now completely in charge of, is trying to constantly upgrade, maintain, expand everything from that first year.
Before I came to IUP, I had no idea what college would be like or what role I would play or where I'd be in the future. But when I came to IUP, everything changed. I met people who really made me feel like I belonged. I had great classes at a great nationally ranked university. Hi, my name's Megan Miller. I'm a fine arts major, and this is my university.
Okay, now moving on, why did the district at the time feel it was important to implement TV production?
I believe from an administrative standpoint, as I alluded to earlier, we were looking to increase the number of electives for students. We're going to try to make the course offerings as robust as possible, and looking around the region and the state, what are some programs at the high school level that we didn't offer? TV broadcasting was one of those options, and we decided to look into it and see if we could make it a reality, and fortunately we were able to do that.
Was the studio, I mean, you hit on this a little bit, was the studio always part of the plan, or was that kind of an idea that came up after the idea of let's putting TV production into the schools?
When we started to put the plan together, and once we found there was enough student interest, not only at Ford City, because that's where we initially started, because we started with a pilot program. Is there interest? Can we make this work? We found that we could. Once we found there was interest at the other high schools, then we wanted to get something even better. So then we started to talk about studio. If we put a studio together for the district, where can we locate it? So it evolved as we moved forward to make sure that it was something that not only the students were willing to get involved with, but also that we had the staff who was interested. And we were very fortunate where we had staff members who took the ball and ran with it. You know? And then fortunately, we were able to have Dawn come on board and be our first studio person and run the program.
And you know, I'm sure that both of you are going to be, speaking of that, both of you are going to be able to probably put a little bit of an input on this next question, but what, if any, and I'm sure there were plenty, challenges did the district face when this program was beginning?
Technological, for one. We did get a generous donation of, I believe it's somewhere in the ballpark of $200,000 worth of equipment from Dr. Paul and Mr. Toy from, it was Worthington Community Television or something.
Yes.
Something like that. When I was hired, the district had just gotten the equipment. It was in storage in the basement at Lenape Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hired, I think it was in like March. I officially started in May. And my entire summer was sorting through all of that equipment, seeing what we had, what worked, what might be missing, what might we need to improve upon, designing the studio space, sort of overseeing its construction by the school district maintenance crew, and just putting it all together. And it was pretty much just me with all of that equipment. And that was extremely challenging. And I remember back when people would ask me how it's going, and depending on who it was, like if it was Dr. Garetano or somebody like that, I'd say it's going well, but it's very challenging. And if it was a friend at home, I would use different terminology. But we managed to get through it. When we first started, we did generally have the support of the school board and the administration. I remember Dr. Kerr used to say, we're kind of building the plane as we're flying it,
Mm-hmm.
and it very much felt like that at times. There was some there was some concern in the community, I think, wondering like if it was going to work, if it was a appropriate use of tax dollars or something like that. So that was something that had to be dealt with on seemingly a daily basis. But I think once we got it together and got it up and running, and people saw what it was and saw, you know, the experience it gave the students, then it began to become accepted by everybody. And that very first taping day, you know, like I think I said this on 7 years ago on the 3-year anniversary, we didn't have lights up on the lighting grid yet. The grid was in, but we didn't have the lights there.
Mm-hmm.
And there were sticks with lights shining down. We didn't have the teleprompter working because we were missing a wire. And we just got 2 music stands and took them down to the middle shop, and they made them a little bigger for us. And John Zish, the former PR guy and host, had these giant cue cards. He ran up to Walmart, I think, just before taping started for the questions for Dr. Kerr, who was the host of that initial show.
Okay.
And we got through it. It's probably the best way to word it, that we got through it.
And I'm sure that there's several different episodes that you can probably use that exact same phrase for, that, well, we got through it.
Yes. Yes, there were.
Was there any sort of class offered, and I think you guys maybe alluded to this, but was there any sort of class offer that tied in naturally to the program when you were starting it?
Well, as we looked at the offerings, we had public speaking at the high schools, and advanced public speaking. And we said, how can we advance it even further? So one of the things we were also interested in doing was having morning video announcements, where at that time we did not have those. So that was a natural tie in getting the morning video announcements. How can we use those students in public speaking and advanced public speaking to I guess make this a program that we thought it could be.
Once a decision was made, what challenges just putting the studio together did you have to deal with? I mean, you've already mentioned a little bit about it, but.
Well, I think the design elements, for one. I went to IUP, went to Clarion. I'd already been there before, but I talked to people there. Just designing the space was pretty challenging in and of itself. I know to save money, we tried to reuse as much as humanly possible, and I literally scoured the district looking for things like the curtains back here are from Ford City from some time ago, and I don't think they've ever changed. Getting bits and pieces like the desk from Dr. Kerr's old show on Family Life TV, things of that nature. The big one for me was the equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, every day, you know, 6 to 8 hours a day, sometimes longer. Just basically, I'd come in and I'd lay something out in the morning, and that would be my goal. By the time I leave today, I'm going to have that figured out and make sure that it works. It took time. I think initially, some people may have hoped that we would have been ready to go at the start of the school year. I don't even think the studio was finished in time.
I think it was finished just second or third week in September, if I remember.
Yeah, I think so I didn't really get a chance to get in here.
Sure, yeah.
And as it worked out, we were ready to roll coming right back from Christmas break. the whole process was, it's a fond memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you're calling it.
Yeah, I'm calling it a fond memory. Yes.
Now, out of everyone that we've brought in today, Don, you're the only one that's been here since the beginning and is still here, obviously in different capacities. How has the studio changed over the years?
Oh, the studio itself, in terms of the physical structure and the equipment, is relatively the same. The equipment that we have here is professional grade, college grade equipment. However, it's obviously gotten older. It's been 10 years. It's standard definition versus high definition. As we're preparing to move into the new building, you've been talking to the people you need to talk to get us switched over to high definition. So in terms of the studio itself, probably not a whole lot of change. Now, the set has certainly changed. When we first started, Dr. Kerr, like I said before, he had that show Focus on Education on Family Life, and he wanted to more or less bring it here with a different name.
Sure.
And his backdrop was bookcases. So I went up to Walmart, I bought some bookcases, we brought the sign, brought in the desk, and that was it. And the bookcases weren't the highest quality, and I remember coming in, I think it was the second year over Christmas, and the books were just all on the floor because 3 of the 5 cases had collapsed and they were just down there. And we went with a single bookcase with the sign. Then I think we had just a plan or something at some point. That sign's always been there one way or another.
You say the sign's
Yeah,
the only.
the sign and the
relic.
desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sign and the desk are the only 2 things that have been there from the beginning. And then when I left and you came in, you commissioned this beautiful backdrop that we have here.
Yeah, and to put credit where credit's due, we really should also point out that the signs that are behind both of us were done with basically a co-op between Josh Miklos's Power Tech class and Mr. Kowalczyk's classes as well. They're the ones who put together these other signs for us. And the custodial staff and Mr. Morta here at the junior high helped me get this set stabilized, because I built it for the most part, but it was being balanced, only counterbalanced by some old weights that had been sitting around. So we secured it a little bit more that way. But can you tell us some other stories maybe about what the studio was like in its beginning, or unique challenges or anything like that?
Well, the one that always pops up in my mind, and I don't know if you remember this or not, is the water line break.
The infamous water line break.
Yes, the infamous water line break of April 2007, I think.
It was
maybe.
before I came
Yeah.
in. It was the spring before I was here. So yeah, it would have been
Yeah, it
2007.
would have been 2007. The bulk of the expensive equipment is in the control room.
Sure.
The control room is right back there, and unbeknownst to me, and I think a lot of other people, a water line runs directly above the control room. And we had a big show that day. I think it was some community leaders from the county government level were coming in, and it was a show that we really couldn't postpone. And I came in that morning, and there's just water everywhere. All the equipment was fried. The TriCaster at the time, that's what we have now. The Trinity at the time.
Oh yeah, the Trinity.
Yeah, which made the whole thing work, was gone. The teleprompter was gone. The computer that worked the teleprompter was gone. The audio board was gone. The switcher was gone. Everything was just fried. And I had to run around that morning between Katanning and Ford City, and I brought in a science table, and I set it up over there on that side of the studio, and we used a couple cameras from Ford City and Katanning, set them up, and just with the basic switcher, the one that Katanning uses for its morning announcements, we got the show off. And that was probably the most stressed out I'd ever been.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was up there. And there's another time when I came in, and I used to always check the equipment the day before taping day.
Right.
And at the end of the day, the Wednesday before I checked it, everything was how it was supposed to be. I came in the next day, and everything was green. And I messed with the wiring all morning, and I could not get it. And we did the show, and I had to color correct it, which was unbelievably hard, to take the green out. And what had happened is, and to this day I don't know who did it, somebody switched input wires on the Trinity unit.
Oh, okay.
So, the RGB was going in, I think, BGR or something like that, and it just made everything green.
It's a little frustrating. That's actually, I had known the story, I just didn't know that was the cause of it.
Yeah, somebody switched a wire on me.
Well, Dr. Garetano, when putting together a new program such as this, I'm sure there needs to be well-documented accountability to show its value. What kind of team or evaluation was put in place to ensure its success?
Well, you always want to evaluate what you're doing to make sure that it works well. And some of the pieces that we put into place were, one, student interest in the program at the satellite schools. You start small and you want it to grow. Fortunately, from what I understand now, Katanning has multiple classes.
Yeah, this year there's 4 sections of TV1 and 1 section of TV2.
So, I mean, that's one metric that you use, student interest. 2, the quality of the product that is aired. And was it being aired, throughout the county, through IUP? That's worked out very well. In fact, I remember receiving a phone call from an administrator in Cambria County who first saw the show when it was up and running, and was very impressed by it. And they, the students at Katanning High School had put together a video regarding PSSA and how you should not become stressed about it. Mm-hmm. Very well done. He called and asked, he said, "Can I get a copy that I'd like to show to my students before we take the PSSA?" So that was another idea. How does the public perception, what kind of comments you get back? Mm-hmm. So that was another metric. Also, the quality of the people. What's happening at the high school level? Are the students really receiving the instruction they need? Once they get to the district studio, are they able to use the instruction they received to make the program run well? And we wanted it to be student-oriented, and it has turned out very well, where the students do the bulk of the work here for taping day.
Now, when we talk about the origins of education today, we have to mention a few other names that were also a big part, including former Superintendent Dr. Bill Kerr, who we mentioned briefly, and our original host, Mr. John Zish, who is one of a kind, as some of us know. But unfortunately, John couldn't be here today. But what can you tell us about him, both from an administrative side and what he brought to the program on the TV side?
I would say from an administrative side, Dr. Kerr was a very big promoter of the program. Once we looked at it, this is what we'd like to do, and the idea was taken to him, and the plan was put in place, he was very enthusiastic because he thought it was something good for the students, and he supported it greatly. John Zish was just a bundle of energy. I mean, he would get here, he was organized to the T, had everything done that needed to be done, and he truly enjoyed being the host of Education Today. You could just see it when he was here, not only in the studio, but also at the central office building, where we talk about different ideas and strategies, things that need to be done to make the program better. John was also, needless to say, a big advocate of the program.
Yeah, John always wanted to get the kids involved as much as possible. Mm-hmm. He was the big promoter of, let's get some student hosts, let's get some kids to write the show, let's get some kids to, the Education Today Challenge more or less originated with John, where the kids take the show from concept to completion completely on their own. And some of the topics he got really fired up about. And like Dr. Garetano said, he was a force to be reckoned with. And Armstrong School District lost something special, I think, when we lost John Zish. I know you and myself, whenever at least I bring Katanning kids here for their first trip up, we always talk about John and do our best John Zish impersonation and everything like that. But John was always positive and just passionate, passionate about this. And as Dr. Garetano said, he did very much enjoy being down here. I think at the beginning, kind of like myself, it was a little nervous, but I think once we got through that first year, this was almost like John's release. He got to come down here, he got to just be the host and, have fun and not worry about any of the other pressures that might be happening at the administrative building and just concentrate on something positive.
Yeah, and I mean, with him, he had a way, you put it the best, with just having energy, and he brought an energy down there to the show. And fortunately, I got to work a couple of years with him before he moved on. But the one thing with him, he always seemed to have the kids too, like, kind of enjoying what he was doing. It's almost like a performance of sorts sometimes. Yes. And they seem to always enjoy him, the energy he brought, the passion he brought, but also maybe some of the choices of vocabulary that he would use and that we may say, and he always had different sayings and different things, and I know that there were days that he pulled things out that had you stop and say, wait, what did he say? What
yeah,
does
like
that
where
even
did that
mean?
come from? But it sounded natural to hear him say it, though.
It was I don't know. I don't know where it came from with him, but since he couldn't be with us today, I'm going to throw it out here to a little video clip of some of the things that he used to do. So. Okay, well, I know John has said he always liked the AHS-TV talent shows that we put on, that you guys aired, the Letter People shows, things of that nature. But what were some of your favorite shows when you were here?
I
maybe
liked, well, back before, I think I appreciated the shows the most that showcase student work.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dr. Garetano had said prior to the break with John, Zish, the PSSA video. That was one of the first, actually I think it was the first thing that a satellite school, being Katanning High School, came up here. They did a bulk of it in school, and then they came up here for a day and did some of it here, utilizing the green screen where they actually had, the student's name was Anna Mercurio. She fell into the text and she was going through the pages of the PSSA. Mm-hmm. And so they took advantage of everything they had at the high school as well as everything that they had here.
Right.
And it did turn out very well, and we did get a lot of compliments on it, and so we put it on the air, and that's where the administrator from Cambria County had a chance to see it, and that's how word got out about it. And throughout the years, we'd done different things like that. I think that any time we've had a chance to promote student work, mm-hmm. and not even necessarily TV production student work, but just student work in mm-hmm. general, is always a bit of a highlight for me. I know I used to always say, and I believe it's true for you as well, my favorite part of education today was working with the kids.
Right.
So anytime we could highlight what they did or what they were doing was always positive. Personally, I always got a kick out of John Zish's National Reading Day, where we'd read a Dr. Seuss book on the air. Like 1 year, we put him on the hat, the Cat in the Hat for the entire episode. So. And anytime I could make John look silly, I enjoyed those as well.
The school district's version of Reading Rainbow, huh?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Well, we might have aged ourselves a little bit on that one. I don't even know if any of our student TV production crew knows what Reading Rainbow is.
They better.
I don't see any head shaking,
no,
so I don't know.
shaking his head no out there.
I really enjoyed the staple shows that we do now, because you have that consistency of people coming in that you work with, and you get a good foundation built with them. But to see I really like to highlight the videos that students do, and I always tell, and I know that you tell your classes, if they work on something that the quality of it is good, I have no problem putting that on air, putting it, maybe even creating a show of just showcasing student work. One of the shows that I used or one of the video projects that you guys did, and this was after you had gone down to the high school already to be teaching, a couple of years ago you did a PSSA video.
Yeah, follow-up.
I quite enjoyed that Mr. Rummel was willing to play a role and play ball with that, and it was extremely well done, very creative, and I still use that to this day as a filler, because it's still very, I think it's still in line with what happens even now today in schools and with the tests that they have to take. So. It's really quite enjoyable when they put out products that we can utilize too. Overall, what is your favorite part about this program?
For me, well, now as a teacher, just being able to see the journey that the kids make from the first, and they all love me for this, I'm sure. The first few weeks of school, notes,
Mm-hmm.
Notes, theory, notes, theory, notes, theory, test. And then getting them up here and seeing some of that stuff put into action, seeing how it's applied with what we can do in the building, to the broader stage of, the actual studio. So I enjoy basically seeing the growth that the students take. I love, and as I did before when I was in your current job, I love seeing them take ownership producing the show. I love it whenever you get a kid on a piece of equipment or a floor director or what have you, and they just step up and they own it.
Right. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Armstrong School District's Education Today.